Welcome to the FinTech Times News and Views podcast. Established in 2016, the FinTech Times is a global multimedia news outlet centered around the world's first leading FinTech newspaper. We report on the latest and brightest ideas from the FinTech world. Follow the conversation using hashtag TFD News and Views and follow us at the FinTech Times.
Hi, welcome to the latest episode of the podcast. My name is Mark Walker. I'm the editorial director of the FinTech Times, and I'd like to welcome my guest to the studio.
Hi, and thanks, Mark. I'm Kimberly Waldron. I am the founder and managing director of Started PR and host of the Get Started podcast.
Hi there. Thank you very much for joining me here.
It's a pleasure.
Now, you're a regular at Web Summit in Lisbon. I've been to many of them. We're obviously here at Web Summit in Qatar. What do you see as the main differences and the sort of the feeling of the different events?
So it's a really good question. I have been to Lisbon 3 times. I've been to Rio last year and now my first time in Qatar. I think the feeling similar, the mix of people, the energy. I think I guess maybe I've noticed some of the stage of companies is slightly different, and that might be specific to the FinTech world I've been speaking to. I've definitely noticed that there's excitement around FinTech. It feels new again. There's a little bit of renewal energy. Obviously, this region is growing in terms of investment, but is in a different place to, say, Europe in terms of regulatory development and I guess the big brands that are emerging as FinTechs from the region. So I feel like there's a little bit of renewed excitement, I think, around FinTech and the opportunity when it comes to entrepreneurship and also the opportunity for investors too.
And I guess the with a pun intended, started to deal with startups.
It was.
But obviously, you're obviously dealing with much more larger companies now as well. How have you transitioned from that sort of being able to look after the smaller companies, but also working with larger brands as well?
But easy answer. Some of the businesses that started with us as earlier stage, they took us with them. So we've been lucky enough to work with some businesses from sort of pre-seed to seed through to Series B and onwards. So we've been very lucky that over the last, I guess we've been around 5 years as an entity, and we've grown with many of our customers. So we now still have the feeder stage and packages and sort of advice for those earlier stage businesses. But we've grown and we've gone through the growing pains, the growing opportunities, and the changing needs of FinTech brands that are expanding.
Your focus is very much on FinTech.
Yeah.
With FinTech, what are the sort of key trends that you're seeing in the market at the moment?
I think I have to answer, and I don't want to be obvious, but I have to obviously say AI and also stablecoins are the topic of conversation. I think that the important topics, though, haven't changed. How to get capital in and to get capital working in FinTech, most importantly, and how to get more FinTech products, services, tools into the hands of end users. And I think how regulation and innovation can work hand in hand. And then obviously how to internationalize FinTech solutions that are regulated in a certain space and how to grow them and internationalize them still. So topical news, AI, stablecoins and what that means, the application of AI in finance and what that really means. But I think the core trends and core important topics are remaining: how to get capital working, how to work hand in hand with regulation and how to internationalize finance.
Difficult to not talk. So obviously with that in sort of mind, what do you think is going to be the topics of conversation maybe later in the year?
Well, I feel like the 2026 has sort of started full of optimism. So I think I'm not trying to be political and avoid the question, but I'm hoping that as we near the end of the year, we'll be talking about the results of some of these core trends. I'd like us to talk about where we've seen these things start to deliver, where we've moved the bar, where AI has, I guess, taken root and really changed things outside of just, we're talking a lot about AI in terms of onboarding, time cutting, saving time, being almost like a concierge for FinTech related businesses or in credit. I think it would be nice to see see the results of that and see some case studies, see where we're really moving the dial. And I think it would be really nice. I'm not going to plug our recent advisory board report, but I think a key trend that came out of interviewing 10 top influencers was that we really want FinTech to wash its own face, for want of a better phrase, to, be self-reflective and think, where are we successful and where are these talking points implemented, moving the dial and what's next. So I hope that answers the question, moving the trends that we're seeing now, the sort of hot topics, through to actually where's it worked? And if it's not worked, let's own up quickly. We've spent a lot of time in FinTech, I think, pushing certain things. And I think it's time to sort of, own up quickly where things aren't working and push the things that really are having the case studies and the success stories.
Thank you very much for joining me here at the FinTech Times.
Thank you for having me.